Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to the very Honorable Anthony Johnstone.
Thank you, Professor Levitt, for the generous introduction. You know, Professor Levitt has made many distinguished contributions, as you know, to the law of democracy as a scholar and as a public servant. But I have to tell you, my favorite piece of his work is still posted on the wall of my old faculty office. It's an ingenious campaign disclaimer that's framed as a nutrition facts label. You remember? Yeah, okay, yeah, he remembers the piece. I'll give you the site if you want it. It's titled Democracy Facts, and it lists the financial ingredients of a political campaign, like the nutrients on a cereal box. I'm still waiting for it to catch on. It's genius. Well, Professor Poon, Dean Clark, Father Wayne, honored leadership of the university, and honored guests, thank you for this opportunity to celebrate the Loyola Law School class of 2026. Faculty and staff, thank you for your dedication in developing these students into lawyers. A special congratulations to Professors Motomura, Pratt, and Tan on your awards. And family and friends, all of you out there, thank you for the love, support, and yes, sacrifice that you've given these graduates over their lives, and especially these very intense last few years. You've made possible the measure of justice these graduates will bring into our world. And hearing from Sengavar, Kari, and Dustin, I know their work has already begun. What a beautiful day for a commencement. LMU is the rare campus that rivals my own scenic University of Montana Mountain campus in my hometown in Missoula. But I tell you, and hopefully some of you appreciate this, I'd trade it all right now to meet you downtown at the law school for a Langer's pastrami sandwich, if anyone's any takers. Our law schools are a lot alike, both mission-driven towards serving the underserved through clinical education and pro bono work. Montana's mission statement calls it preparing for the people-oriented practice of law, but I find the Jesuit-inflected forming lawyers for others to be a more elegant formulation. And this mission lives in the class of 2026. Thank you for the tens of thousands of hours you've provided in numerous people, many of whom have had nowhere else to turn. Our communities and our courts need you to fill these critical gaps in our legal system and to further its aspirations towards justice. So let me offer my first word of advice. Keep it up. I've been teaching law for 20 years and have been learning law for 30, but I've never learned as much as in my first 3 years of judging. This week, actually, I'll head up to San Francisco right after this to hear my 500th case. And from this work, I've learned lessons that I wish I knew when I was in your seats. Those lessons are actually what keeps me coming back into the classroom and campuses. One lesson, which you've already heard a little bit about today, is dignity. And I'd like to share a little more about that with you. Now, by dignity, I do not mean the esteem we hold for lawyers or courts. Lawyer jokes aside, the bench and bar still are very much de Tocqueville's aristocracy in America, but that's not what I mean. And on our court, while I'm grateful to sit with dedicated colleagues in beautiful places over the hill in Pasadena and up the coast in San Francisco, which, by the way, are named for a Montanan, Chief Judge James Browning, that's not what I mean either. Because as Judge Morrow said in the dedication of the Ninth Circuit's headquarters in San Francisco, more than a century ago, injustice and wrong may emanate from a palace, while right and justice may come from a hovel. Esteem may support a legal system, but it cannot be its source. So if dignity matters to law, to what we do, we should ground it in something sturdier than the judgments of others. Let us try to do so in a way of thinking about dignity that is familiar to this community. I noted that President Poon recently observed that LMU is called to uphold the dignity of every person and serve faith and promote justice in all we do. This idea of dignity is a surprisingly modern formulation, though it bears ancient roots, braided from both religion and humanism. We should start with Francisco Suarez, a Jesuit scholastic who argued that natural dignity of persons made in the image of God requires self-rule, subject only to divine law. Later, the Enlightenment philosopher Immanuel Kant would ground dignity in a similar kind of dignity, an inner worth, and he grounded in human reason. But for most of human history, that dignity and the legal status that we associated with it was a high rank enjoyed by only a few. But this new form of human dignity promised to elevate us all to an equal rank. That's the kind of dignity that informs law's aspirations today. It took the terrors of 2 world wars to renew the conversation about modern dignity in our law. The philosopher Simone Weil observed in the midst of World War II, there's something sacred in every man, the whole of him. And in the aftermath, the nations formed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights around the inherent dignity and equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family. It found its way further into law, into American law, when Congress enacted the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It announced that its primary purpose is to solve the deprivation of personal dignity that surely accompanies denial of the right to enjoy equal treatment. And around the same time, the Supreme Court introduced dignity into constitutional doctrine, noting that the essential dignity and worth of every human being is at the concept of any decent system of ordered liberty. Dignity even made its way from these sources through the new Constitution of Puerto Rico into Montana's Constitution, that of my home state, the 1972 Constitution, which declares its equality guarantee with the dignity of the human being is inviolable. Okay, so if we all have dignity, what does it mean for law, for lawyering, for what we do together? The legal philosopher Jeremy Waldron puts it that law is committed to the protection and vindication of the high rank and dignity of the ordinary person. That means law allows ordinary people to act like officials, to engage in self-rule under law. And here I'm reminded again of my friend Professor Levitt's view in recent remarks of voting as an affirmation that each of us matters, that each of us belongs. In this light, human dignity requires the rule of law so that people can live their lives according to their purposes in community with others living their lives according to their purposes. Those purposes will conflict, of course, and when they do, we may call on courts to mediate. And there, as Waldron explains, equal dignity makes due process a moral imperative. A court must hear both sides with respect, attend to the evidence and arguments presented, and give reasons for its decision. Our commitment to dignity matters most when law's power must act on persons, not just for them. It is because law is coercive, Waldron concludes, because its currency is ultimately life and death, prosperity and ruin, freedom and imprisonment, that its inherent commitment to dignity is so momentous. And this is where you come in. Honoring human dignity, these are the words of legal ethicist David Lubin, honoring human dignity means assuming that someone, no matter their legal circumstances, has a story that can be told in good faith. Dignity under law, therefore, requires lawyers. So litigants get to tell their story and argue their understandings of the law. Yet a lawyer must be more than a client's mouthpiece. And here dignity's demands get complicated. As lawyers, you will confront tensions between respecting a person's interests and respecting a person's worth. As Lubin says, honoring someone's dignity means honoring their being, not merely their willing. In other terms, Professor Robert Vischer, who's now president of the University of St. Thomas, says, a commitment to human dignity compels lawyers to widen their gaze, to remember that law serves the well-being of the human person, and thus the person must remain at the center of their work. It's very practical. The best advocates I see know this. They do more than translate their clients' claims into the language of the law. They also transform those claims into a vision of the law that respects the relationships we owe to each other. In my work as a judge, I try to do the same. So in becoming lawyers, you have a higher purpose than simple representation. Because you see, the dignity of your clients demands that you give voice to their lives, liberties, and pursuits, yet that dignity also calls on you to make those lives, liberties, and pursuits real under a rule of law that respects the equal dignity of others. And I am confident that Loyola has prepared you well for this calling. And as you commence your careers, let me leave you with this lesson. The true dignity of the law is not to be found in our marble courtrooms or our judges in their black robes or even our venerable Constitution or monumental legal codes. What truly dignifies our courts are the people we serve and the lawyers, you, who will give them a voice in the law. Congratulations and welcome to our profession. May your work continue the cause of human dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Johnstone.